Hello, good evening. Have you heard about this creative, artistic, one-of-a-kind one? Faith Ringgold was born in 1930 in Harlem, New York. She was born during the Great Depression, and being African American, she was determined to succeed. She knew what it was going to be, and it was difficult, but she looked beyond that and was positive about what she could do. Faith is the youngest of four children with her brothers and both of her parents. Both of her parents were working class families who were displaced by the Great Migration. The Great Migration was the movement that affected 6 million blacks from out of the rural southern United States to the urban Northeast. At a time of being displaced, her parents made the best of it. This is where Faith's story, livelihood, begins. Faith had really bad asthma, and so she spent a lot of her childhood indoors with her mother, who was very creative, and her father, who was an avid storyteller. Faith also grew up with Sonny Rollins, a jazz saxophonist, who ended up producing over 60 albums during his career. Her first painting was for her friend Sonny. Because of the great home life and creativity, Faith herself was able to apply these skills to her own life. She graduated the City College of New York in 1955 and 1959. She received her bachelor's and her master's in visual art. She has received over 23 honorary doctorates. A doctorate is a degree in an academic degree setting from a university which sometimes waives certain requirements. She received 23 of those. That's pretty cool. She made a career out of painting, also known as a sculptor, performance artist, writer, teacher, and lecturer. Basically, a jack of all trades, if you ask my opinion. Some of her inspirations came from writings of James Baldwin and Emery, an African art impressionist from back when she went back into Africa and studied the cultural. She took those learnings and her skills that she learned when she flew to Africa back in 1960 and applied that into making some of her first art figures, which were very flat and oddly shaped. She received a lot of attention with these images, but not positive attention. People were very skeptical, and she sold little work. Her early paintings focused on the underlying racism in everyday lives. Most of these paintings were reflections of her political view because of her experience growing up in the Harlem Renaissance. These political views grew into maturity during the civil rights movement and women's movement. These movements and changes in history, her thoughts, and her experiences were put on quilts and canvas paintings. Her goal was to give people knowledge and options and potentially power through her art, not intentionally making anyone mad at her opinions or her thoughts or her views, but just a different outlet for people to be able to provide to their daily living skills. Her work is on family life, relationships, jazz music, and race and history of slavery in America. Here is a picture of one of her first paintings, Neighbors Die. The Flag is Bleeding is picture number 2. These are two of the biggest paintings, captured around civil rights movement. Faith married and had 2 kids. She divorced. She tried making a living out of her career. She started to do some short-term paintings of flowers, landscapes, and hills. But let's be honest, people weren't really into those kind of things back then. When she remarried, she began making sculptures. She tried to make a living out of the sculptures, the masks from a variety of different hanging masks that people just hang in their home for decorative measurements, a representing mask of both real and not real characters from the past to the present. At this point in life, Ruth White, who ran an art gallery, provided life-changing feedback to to Ringgold. She explained how, what, when, and where, and the importance of that in her paintings. Someone needed to be able to look at a painting and feel the experience of that painting of life, whether it was a life-changing moment, whether it was a history. She explained that as an artist, she wants people to tell the story of the times. Often, people didn't want to see that. She said, but I don't do what people want to see. I do what I can. Talk about sassy. And that was Faith was all about. She really didn't care what other people thought of her. She painted what she wanted to paint, and that's just kind of what she was about. Even people wanted something from the real world. That was the whole point of Ruth White, who was the art gallery provider for Faith for many years. She said, people want to be able to look at those paintings and take that into their life and apply those skills to their life. Through some unsettling times, Ringgold's art has always been pitched at the heart of the nation. And that's what she was wanting Faith to understand, was during those times, it was the heart of the nation. It was to make a change for the better, the good. Faith's narrative quilts are hand-stitched quilts that tell a story. One in particular is Aunt Jemima. Most of you know that's the pancake lady. Faith put herself into life as action, as if she was the person she was sewing for, and that's what the painting was about, and that's what people loved it. That was picture number 3. She did receive some pretty negative criticism on this. She wasn't trying to make fun of Aunt Jemima in any way. She was just trying to show what her life was about during that painting. This is where her best-known work began. From the negative criticism, she turned that into positive criticism. Her most famous quilt is Tar Beach. Tar Beach is a family on the rooftop of their home on a hot summer night, taking a breath of fresh air, escaping the non-air-conditioned house, also known as a freedom quilt. Years ago, quilts were used to help the slaves escape to freedom. They were used so that they would be able to escape the slavery and be able to live a better life. The patterns of the quilts, which were so important to Faith, were secret messages to escape north. Now, she didn't make quilts for people who were in slavery to be able to escape, but some of her quilts were important messages about life-changing things about her past and her present. Faith combined her African heritage for creating these quilts and paintings and sculptures. Her story quilts and masks in stained glass capture the soul of the U.S. Faith's latest over the years has been her success in children's book. As an author and illustrator, she has wrote 17 books and received a Peace Corps Award. One of her books being Tar Beach, another If a Bus Could Talk. Could you imagine being in a bus and hearing what the bus could talk? All the stories. Faith is now 88 and still has a no-sense attitude lady. She states, in my family, there was no such thing as you can't do that. Yes, you can. That's basically what she's telling you. Age doesn't stop her. She continues to read to children with bubbly personality and shares her beautiful artwork. That is Faith Ringgold.